Very good evening and welcome. You're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. We keep talking about how India is the bright spot in the world right now, where there are a billion opportunities. In fact, it's going to be one of the fastest growing economies of this size over the next 3 years. But at the same time, data suggests that there is a large number of Indians who are still looking for greener pastures abroad. Now, this is not surprising looking at the size of our population, but take a look at some of the data. In the last 1 decade, 16.21 lakh Indians have renounced their citizenship. And it's not just those who are leaving. We're talking also in this group of 6,500 high net worth individuals who are projected to leave India for foreign shores this year. Add to that the almost 70,000 Indians who've surrendered their passport in the last decade. Now, while this is a drop in the ocean when compared to our population, the question remains, how do we make India attractive for our brightest minds? What is the reason that people are choosing to migrate in large numbers in absolute terms, even though it's a fraction of the percentage of this population? To speak more on this, I'm joined today by Madhavan Narayan, senior journalist, Sunil, Alagh, MD of SK Advisors, and M. Hassan, CEO of applycourses.com. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today on the show. Hassan, let me begin with your perspective, because for a lot of, I would say, affluent, educated Indians, the gateway to living and working abroad, to migration, is through education. Can you give us a sense of why people want to study abroad, and is that trend growing?
Thank you so much. So basically, what's happening is it's from a long time in India. The education system needs some reform, and because the number of institutions in India are not that quality educations they are providing, and I think this is one of the main reasons the brain drain is happening. Because when you see the colleges in India are offering bachelor's degree, the after completion of the course, actually they are not qualified to get a job here in India itself. Because even if you see the last data in December 21, 1 out of 5 colleges undergraduates, they are unemployed. So I think the main reason here is if we have a very good infrastructure or education quality offered by the Indian colleges, so I don't think so. Then this might be reduce the number of students going abroad. And the other opportunities is like again, as India is a very big country, the number of population is pretty high, and the companies are very limited skill labor, and because of that, the job opportunities are only limited to those who are having skilled qualifications, or they are good enough to get a job. And when they are not getting what they are looking for in India, then they look for migrate, or to look, either they go for a further educations, or they directly migrate to different countries, because the work cultures there, the education qualities are totally different. I personally studied from abroad, so I know what its difference between the Indian education system as well as the work culture.
Just some data to understand the scope of this. The size of the Indian diaspora is estimated to be 3.2 crore people. As per MEA information, 25 lakh odd people migrate every year out of India and go overseas. Remember, these are not people who are giving up their Indian citizenship or passport, but these are people who are migrating to work and stay either for a short duration or a longer duration. And then, of course, is the number of people who give up Indian citizenship after a point, simply because we do not offer dual citizenship. But why? And one of the primary reasons is an increase in income. So as per the World Development Report published by the World Bank, that's for 2023, Indians who migrate abroad can expect a rise in income of 120% versus a 40% if they migrate within the country. Madhavan, at the end of the day, is that what we need to focus on if you want to keep the best talent? We keep gloating and, getting very excited about the fact that some of the largest American companies in the world are helmed by Indian origin bosses. But are there enough opportunities at those pay scales back here? That question for Madhavan Narayan.
Yeah, Tamanna, I think let me take an out of the box look at this. Actually, it's not out of the box. I would say this is the box we should look at. It's about what people look for in life, and economics is a part of life. Economics is not equal to life, although we use it like a shorthand in terms of income, opportunities, and all that. So one of the things we were discussing education and employment. Everything gets mixed up. We need to understand what people look for in life. They need a combination of security, lifestyle, and incomes that generate a quality of life. And in general, in India, seem to be a sort of a congested place for both education, because even to get admission in IITs, or you see what is happening with civil services or NEET, you'll find that it's a highly competitive environment. So people want to kind of get out of this heat somehow. And also, the younger lot are more adventurous. So it's become a sort of a status symbol to travel abroad and, if possible, settle abroad. And I've also been noticing that there's a decline in population of nearly all European countries, especially in the East and East Europe and Italy and all that. So to some extent, everything plays a role in people wanting to emigrate. And if you look at the traffic jams in Bangalore or Mumbai or Delhi, or the air pollution rates or AQI index, people really want increasingly better lifestyles. So to answer your question, I would say that we should look at not just income opportunities, but also quality of life and better work cultures. Work cultures means, there's a lot of talk these days about toxic work cultures, although compared to the past, India has improved a lot. So there also needs to be a certain human resource initiative where you look at the quality of life. For instance, smaller towns, people from smaller towns come to work in metros, whereas new technology actually enables you to work in smaller towns. And today, if you look at it, places like Jaipur and Mangalore and even Bhubaneswar actually have very good infrastructure. But why do people still want to work in Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore? It's partly because of a sense of adventure that youngsters tend to have, a sense of arriving in life, which is associated with bigger cities, and also a certain kind of atmosphere for people. I know, as somebody who played a key role in bringing Reuters to Bangalore, where I was employee number 3, and when I left, there were 2,000 or 1,500. Now there are more than 10,000. And the questions I had to answer when I had to deal with my expat bosses was, how do you provide a good lifestyle to executives? This
Yeah.
kind of thinking has to be made, and this has to be calibrated.
No, but
Everything
one,
costs
I would argue that you're right, quality of life, etc. But let me get Sunil Alagh into this conversation. I would argue at the end of the day, the biggest push is the economic one. People over time, humans over time, have migrated in search for greener pastures, for better opportunities. Now, the question we're raising and the perspective we're putting it in is that India is now offering to those who can afford and who have that kind of skill, one would argue, a lifestyle on par. Yet, why do so many people, and it's an increase in absolute terms, continue to want to move abroad?
As far as I'm concerned, look, the population abroad is, whilst both the points raised by other speakers are good enough, but population abroad is falling. All of them are getting older. The younger generation is down, and the number of people who look for jobs is X number, which is decreasing. So therefore, the opportunities for anyone from the world is growing. Now we have a large population, and therefore not everybody is income group. So if 6,000, as you said, HNIs who've gone out or something like that is very small in numbers. But look, as far as they are concerned, going to other countries, either through scholarships or through education, when they do not get into all the best institutions in India or the IAS service, then they think of going abroad, because ultimately they have to do something with their education. So as far as I'm concerned, look, our population is growing, people are growing. Even those who go abroad want to come back at the end of their education. Many of them come back. So the question is that we have to now, this is a new India which is coming up, and that's where we should be in. And people who are going out are investing in India. So it's not a question of taking all the money out and not putting any money back. So it's a question of carrying on with your investments in India. And ultimately, you have to pay your tax everywhere in India. They are total everywhere in the world. They total you up and they say income, whether you're American citizen or the Indian citizen. Now you have to declare your world income. So there's no escape from paying your taxes. And a lot of countries where you have double taxation treaties in the sense, but you still pay your tax. So as far India has not
suggesting,
really lost.
Sunil, let me get that clear. So are you suggesting that these sort of rules might nudge someone to give up an Indian citizenship so they don't pay double tax?
It's not a question of paying double tax. In Goa, 40% of what you've said in Indian Express has gone from Goa because they have brought about a rule for Portugal, which says that if you've got for so many, that's why 40% of Portuguese are going abroad.
So that story, you're right. You're right to qualify that story. That's because there is a rule in Goa that anyone born before 1961 and the next two generations can apply for a Portuguese citizenship. So people in Goa may be doing it. But remember, that's also a small proportion of the overall number of people giving up citizenship. We have added World Bank data to that. We're not just talking about this. We're trying to understand the big picture here.
Is that, look, India is changing and people will change with India changing. And right now you are talking about, as of now, so many people are going out, but many people want to come back into India also. So there's a question of saying that, look, ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you go through a scholarship, whether you have enough income in India or not, whether there are enough opportunities or not, opportunities will grow in India in the next 2, 3, 5 years. And therefore, people may wish to come back, those who've gone abroad. So
no data. I've heard this. I've heard people saying this. I have no data of people giving up any other citizenship to come back to India.
No, they don't have to give up citizenship. Look, ultimately, maybe you nudge towards having dual citizenship. Then we'll have to have the right picture of saying, whether right now India is where you should either give up one passport or the other passport. Many countries have dual citizenship. Maybe India will, from 1930 or 1950, I think there was a rule, 1955, that you could not have dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Maybe we are moving towards that.
Okay.
But,
that's important. Okay, Madhavan wants to come in. Madhavan wants to come in. Yes.
I think, Tamanna, we have to mention several things here. And since I have family members who've been through this, I can tell you that there is something called the PIO card, the Person of Indian Origin card, which makes you, in some ways, just stop short of dual citizenship. You can't vote, you can't buy agricultural land, but there's a lot else you can do. The other thing we need to separate is residency from citizenship. You can be a resident in India while not being an Indian citizen, while being a person of Indian origin. That happens. Yeah. The other thing I have noticed, again, because given my age, a lot of my classmates, some of them started coming back to India, to become managing directors of companies in India, because it's upward mobility, living with your parents when you get a certain age. So people make choices, it's like coffee in a cafe. It can be a cappuccino, latte. It depends on your combination of what you want. And Indians, being Indians, like to have the cake and eat it too. So they like Indian family and they want to have chole bhature, and then they also want dollar salaries and stock options and a CXO's job. So they mix and match. And increasingly, I find that India is becoming a sort of a revolving door place. It doesn't show in official records because we still consider citizenship to be a sacrosanct issue. But, I have actually met people from the IT industry whose business cards have two sides. One mentions all US details, the other mentions all Indian details. The dual show people are quite common these days. And, fund managers who are living out of Dubai, but you're regularly being interviewed on ET now, how things are. UAE.
No, I know a lot of crypto startup bosses who packed up and left. Or a lot of influencers who've now found greener pastures. So, which brings me back to my point. I'm not talking about the different choices of coffee in a cafe. I'm talking about what's the message here. What can we improve on to make sure that even those who are leaving and who love their chole bhature don't have to run?
Let me come there, Tamanna. I'm very passionate about this. It's very clear to me that we have to redefine infrastructure in this country. We are talking about highways, ports, and power plants as infrastructure. It's time to talk of infrastructure which I call soft infrastructure, the kind of schools, hospitals, air quality, and commuting distance and things like that. That now that we have that kind of money now, if you look at the GST collections, NHAI, the National Highway Authority of India, is actually revenue positive actually now. I've seen it grow from the 90s. So we have to think anew of a new kind of infrastructure to match the human capital as opposed to just the manufacturing industry. Most of the narrative of infrastructure in India has been dictated by the needs of the manufacturing industry owners. It's time to define it in terms of middle class values or lifestyle values and certain, aspirational values of human lives. And that has to actually reflect even in things like how do you define infrastructure outlays? I want to broaden
Okay,
the definition.
infra is one point. We're talking about taxation, ease of doing business. Let's not forget, very, very important points like that, where you want to bring those kind of experiences at par. Yes, Hassan, you want to come in?
Yeah, basically, I can give you my own example. When I was living in UK, so I didn't want to come back, but then I had this intention because the reason I came back is because of my family. So I had that choice whether I should live or not, but I decided to come back. So the difference between the lifestyle there is totally different. Like when I was living there, I felt like, okay, if I get sick, I don't need to pay, or maybe I can easily get a healthcare. Or if I would have lived there, my kids would have been, high quality education. Or if I'm going outside, the infrastructure, the roads, everything is good. So that's what the basically human or I was looking for. But yes, India has to do that, and it's improving. It's like it's 10 years back when I came back, it was something else, but now India is improving. A lot of infrastructure is happening, and I think we will reach there at some stage where it will stop, or it will grow, come down.
Just the last point from Mr. Sunil, Alagh, you're saying things are changing, people are preferring to come back. Yes, anecdotally, a lot of people are preferring to come back. But what can we do to make sure that our brightest that come out of our IITs and our IIMs and our top institutes don't feel that their futures lie elsewhere?
I disagree with you on that. The best in IIM and the best in IITs want to stay in India, and they get enough jobs and they get all the pays that they're looking for, even if a foreign company is going and coming and recruiting them to stay in India. So, I mean, they don't give up, and they don't give up their citizenship or their passports when they move out. So when they are going to America, they're going for another experience. I was offered to go to Singapore. Maybe it was a little late in my life, but I chose to stay in India when I was running Britannia. But many people have to do it. And in another 5 years, India will be another place altogether. So taking past history figures and taking today, look, a lot of Italians left, a lot of Germans left, a lot of Polish people left. Everybody went to America many years ago. Are they going across today? No, their countries are offering everything that's possible. So look, as far as India is concerned,
we are offering everything that's possible on par today.
Yeah, well, I think many Italians don't want to go. Maybe a few
but
do.
But why are we talking about Italians? Let's talk about our desis.
Let's talk about India. Look at the infrastructure which is coming up. As somebody has said, I went to South India. I went to Madurai. There 4 road lanes are coming up, and they are fabulous roads. Huh?
Okay, so look, let me just put this into perspective. Let me just put this into perspective from that same World Bank report I've been quoting. Low-skilled workers migrating from India to the USA are likely to get a 500% hike in income.
They'll get it. Okay.
On migration to UAE, quality of life for someone who's a plumber, a carpenter, electrician. So there are economic considerations. 1 minute. Madhavan wants to come in. Yes, Madhavan.
Yeah, I think it's very important. It's a complex debate you've triggered, Tamanna, because semi-skilled workers, low-skilled workers, high-skilled workers, and wage differentials are huge. Today, IITians want to do startups straight out of college. They don't want to work for the Microsofts and Apples of the world anymore. Whereas actually, it's a smaller tier 3 engineering colleges that are advertising that Amazon is hiring our students. So there is some interesting thing happening even within the highly educated people. And within the lower skilled people, it's very important to understand that there are visa restrictions that prevent, blue collar workers from emigrating except to the Gulf, where they don't have the kind of lifestyle. I know it again that blue collar workers, Indian workers, the dream is to save money and come back to India and set up a shop. They're not talking about, really having great
Even
lifestyles, but
exist.
at their
That
level,
option doesn't even exist
yeah, so
in
we
Gulf
have to
countries.
understand,
Yes.
they say for everything you say about India, the opposite is also true.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely true in terms of this wonderful
Interesting.
thing that we are going through.
Yeah.
Skills, opportunities, capital, everything is available in India and abroad. That's why people make choices, especially the younger you are, the more choices you make. Which is why people no longer, housing loan no longer attracts Indian HR department, Indian HR departments can no longer boo young workers with home loans the way Infosys did in the 90s. The game has completely changed. So we need to
Okay,
really
quick word from Sunil before I wrap. Yes.
Two areas which we need to improve on. One is social security, that at the end of the taxes you pay, are you getting social security or not? So far, we haven't come there. And the second is also move towards dual citizenship. Those are the two areas. Otherwise, I would not worry so much about people wanting to go out and come in and go out and come in. We are improving as an economy, as far as infrastructure is concerned, as far as education is concerned. Give it another 5 to 10 years,
Yeah.
India will be there.
Let me also put into perspective why this conversation is important from the idea of another 5 to 10 years. We are going to come to a time where India, as today being the most populated nation, is going to be the talent bank. And there is going to be a scramble for talent, for people. It's going to be perhaps a competitive kind of a race to keep back people. So we need to start working on that right away. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the show this evening. We'll take a very short break, but a lot more